From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
Cascade Paint and Supply is Reading's oldest family-owned paint store, established in 1953. We are the largest Dunn Edwards dealer in the nation, and most of our products are made in the U.S. Our friendly and knowledgeable staff are ready to answer your questions and help you today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Meteorologist Mike Krueger. Thank you so much for joining me here for your Wednesday morning update. It got pretty warm out there yesterday, especially for the north end of the valley. Saw a bit of a delta breeze, kept things a little bit cooler down to the south end of the valley, but we do have a warming trend really for the rest of the week. We're going to keep those temperatures most likely above normal, that is, here. Now, there's going to be a much bigger heat heading our way Friday in particular, with temperatures starting to drop but still hot on Saturday. We're going to see an even bigger drop, especially by the time we get into the beginning of next week, with a chance for some mountain showers here by early next week as well. Sometime around Monday, Tuesday, we start to see that chance for showers, especially Tuesday. That's really the bigger day, but even then, doesn't look all that impressive. The extreme heat watch that the National Weather Service issued a few days ago is downgraded to a heat advisory. Essentially, I don't think it's going to be quite as hot as initially thought. Now, it's going to be hot. Don't get me wrong. But instead of getting close to 110, it's more like 106 to 108 in the valley, and probably somewhere in the upper 90s to a little over 100 degrees for places like Trinity County, where we also have that heat advisory. We're going to get into all of that, talk about our chances for showers as well in our deeper dive, but here's a look at Krueger's Quickcast for your Wednesday, May 28th. All right, let's get you out the door here for this morning. The kids to school, yourself off to work, upper 60s for the valley. Looks like the coast, a little bit of low cloud cover out there, low 50s and 60s for the higher elevations. Now, the ridge of high pressure we saw yesterday was pretty prominent and pretty well defined. What's happening is, you see how this is kind of beginning to tilt more and more, and that's because we've got an area of low pressure right here that's beginning to override that ridge of high pressure. It's going to flatten it out, just that high pressure, that is. It's going to flatten out that ridge, and as a result, temperatures for most of us, with the exception of that, the influence of that delta breeze, we're probably going to see a lot of these temperatures overall drop a little bit before that ridge of high pressure builds an even stronger by the end of the week, which we'll get into that here a little bit later as well. But the wind's not that bad this morning, as we typically see this time of the year. Winds picking back up later this afternoon from the northwest for the north end of the valley, and still a little bit more of that southerly flow of winds to the south. By the way, also a little bit gusty off to the east into Modoc and Lassen counties. The winds died down again for tomorrow morning, picking back up for tomorrow afternoon. Still very dry later this afternoon, probably somewhere in the single digits and low teens for the valley. We do see that recovery in the morning hours, but still quite dry, probably in the upper 20s to low 30% range, especially for the north end of the valley, and then dropping again by the afternoon. Here's a look at Futurecast. Any chances for rain are mainly going to be confined off into Modoc County. I'll be honest, the National Weather Service is including a chance for showers and thunderstorms possibly for Siskiyou County and even into Trinity County. I don't see it, folks. I'll be watching the radar for you, and if anything happens, I'll let you know. But as it stands right now, I just think we're going to see some afternoon convective clouds, but no showers in the forecast. If we see anything, it may be in Modoc County, maybe even Lassen. Still, the low clouds trying to hang out towards the coast here, but that should clear out here later on tonight, and of course, clear skies elsewhere. All right, let's take a look at our forecast for today. Temperatures in the low 90s on average for most of us in the valley. So instead of that 97 that we saw yesterday in Reading, more like 92 today, and instead of the mid 80s we saw to the south, a little bit warmer, because we're not going to see as much of that delta breeze influence. Temperatures will be in the 80s for most of the higher elevations and around 90 for parts of Trinity County, and low to mid 60s for your daytime highs on the coast. Let's take a look at that 7-day forecast. There it is. So you may recall, looking at the 7-day forecast earlier this week, it was like 108, 107. Well, I've dropped those temperatures down a little bit here, and it's going to be mainly Friday. We see the hottest temperatures. They start to drop, but still hot on Saturday, and then we see the big drop in our temperatures by the time we get into early next week. For the coast, we're in the mid 60s during the peak of that heat wave for the coast, if you want to call it that, and then low 60s once again for Sunday into Monday. There's that triple-digit heat we expect inland on Friday as well as Trinity County, but then temperatures do start to drop after that, especially by the second half of the weekend and early next week. All right, for Siskiyou, Modoc County, Eastern Mountains, I've included a chance on Monday. Don't count on it to be much. It's also the case on Tuesday. If we were to, right now, look at the best chance for rain either of these 2 days, it would be Tuesday. But even then, it doesn't look to be all that significant. That's a look at Krueger's Quickcast. Before we get to the deeper dive, I want you to know that there's a 24-hour streaming channel that you have access to free from Weather NorCal. Anywhere you get Weather NorCal, you can get the free 24-hour streaming channel. WeatherNorCal.com, the free Weather NorCal app. The 24-hour streaming channel is also available on Amazon Fire Stick, Roku. Just search for Weather NorCal in those app stores. And anywhere YouTube is available, you can watch the 24-hour streaming channel. What I also love about the YouTube app is it's available on your TV, and you can watch on demand the latest video forecast. We're in an on-demand nation. You want to watch the latest forecast? You can do that from Weather NorCal from the YouTube app. Check it out. I think you'll like it. All right, so here you go. That ridge of high pressure. You'll kind of see the progression of what's happening here. The very beginning, you saw a nice defined ridge of high pressure. We're beginning to break that ridge of high pressure down a little bit here. That's because we got this low pressure here, and it's kind of pushing through that ridge. What it's going to do is flatten it out a little bit here. Now, don't get me wrong. It's still going to be just as warm as it has been in many cases. In fact, maybe warmer, but it's not going to get as hot as it could. Now, the winds, as mentioned earlier, they're going to be picking up again later this afternoon. We go into tomorrow morning, the winds die down. You know what's going to happen after this, right? The winds pick back up here for Thursday afternoon. And you can see it more of that north wind really across the board for the valley, and maybe even a little breezy along the coast too. Then we go into your Friday, still looking at those breezy north winds. That's going to keep that fire weather risk a little elevated. But I'm not seeing a lot of oranges on the map. And what that means is when you start seeing orange colors, that means you get into that high category for the fire weather risk. We're mainly in the higher end of the moderate range here. So that's something to just kind of take into account. So we are seeing improving conditions, and that certainly is good news. But even when we get into that moderate range, and especially when we see humidity levels in the lower teens and single digits, we've just got to be aware of that, especially with that north wind. Even as we go into Friday afternoon, around midday, we're starting to see some oranges popping up on the map. So we may actually see fire weather risk elevate even higher. And one of those reasons would be the fact that it is going to be the hottest day on Friday with this heat wave that is approaching. Now, we are seeing some of the low clouds and fog. It's having a hard time completely clearing out for the coast today, but by tonight, you are seeing that clearing out. As mentioned, maybe a stray sprinkle or light shower out towards Modoc County today. Otherwise, I think everyone else will be dry. Thursday morning, there's some of that fog along the coast. Once again, having a hard time completely clearing out even for Thursday afternoon, but dry for everyone else. And as we'd expect, especially that heat wave and that ridge of high pressure really building in, no rain in the forecast on Friday. It's just that heat. That's that heat advisory I was telling you about a little bit earlier. Now, as you may notice here, I don't have 100 to 110 degrees for that range. It's more like 98 to 108. Now, why that range? Well, the lower end of that is going to be for Trinity County. So upper 90s to a little over 100 degrees, 101, 102, maybe 103 at its hottest. Now, for the valley, this I think is stretching it. We're talking, say, 103 to maybe 106. 107 at its hottest, but that's what we're looking at for the valley. And I think really most of that is going to be Friday. That's going to be the peak of the heat wave. Temperatures will shave off a few degrees here going into Saturday, and then more than shave off a few, but a lot of degrees by the time we get into Sunday and especially Monday. So this is the National Weather Service heat risk map. What this is showing here, when you get into the reds and into the purples, that's when it's most dangerous for everyone, because in the reds even, you have effects anyone, anyone without proper cooling and or hydration. What that means is you may go, oh, you're overreacting. It's going to be hot. I know, I'm used to it. That's fine. You've got proper hydration. You've got a place to stay cool. That's great for you. But think about all the people who don't have proper hydration or cooling. This is when it can be a very dangerous situation. So in a situation like this, it's always good to make sure we watch out for our neighbors, friends, and family, and your pets. Don't forget about them as well. This is what I was talking about on Saturday. We're starting to see temperatures drop. We're more within that moderate range, so that if this affects most people that are at least sensitive to the heat. So the healthier people tend to have an easier time with these temperatures, especially, again, without that proper cooling and that hydration. So, again, look out for your neighbors. You may say, oh, it's not going to be that bad. It's going to be 108 degrees, big deal. All right, yeah, that's great. But it is a big deal for those who can't properly cool themselves down. All right, so here you go. We've got that warmer air that we did see yesterday, kind of shifting a little bit off to the east, some cooler air riding to that north. But by Friday, you can see that ridge of high pressure building in. This ridge, I just don't see it as strong as we were seeing here with some of the earlier forecast model runs earlier this week. Now you can see on Saturday, see some colder air? That's pushing up to the north. So quite honestly, we'll see what happens, because I think it's going to be a lot cooler than what I'm even showing here for Saturday, because this ridge of high pressure, it's shifting to the east, it's weakening. We've got colder air riding to the north of it. That is going to drop our temperatures down. So there's a chance that the heat advisory, and at that point maybe even a extreme heat warning, may be allowed to expire sooner than anticipated. We'll see. Then, as we go into Monday, Tuesday, look at this. An area of low pressure riding from the north. It's going to drop our temperatures down at the very least into the low 80s by the time we get into Tuesday. Now, what about rain? Yeah, there is going to be a chance for some showers in there, especially for the mountains north and east of the valley. Tuesday, maybe some of those showers coming in even for parts of Trinity County as well. And then that starts to slowly shift to the east, moderate a bit. Temperatures start to warm up starting Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, as this warmer air and ridge begins to slowly build in through next week. So this roller coaster ride that we're seeing here, we see that peak on Friday. As I mentioned, I think we're going to see probably maybe even a bigger drop than this. But you see the trend getting back down to about 80 by next Tuesday, and then we start to work our way back up. So quite the roller coaster ride in those temperatures over the next 10 days. Your lake levels are showing that we are seeing that minor drop still for Lake Shasta and Trinity Lake and Oroville. Look at that, no change at all there, but still at 99% capacity for Lake Oroville. Taking a look at your wave heights for today, they're not going to be all that high, but they will start to increase a little bit as we take you into your Thursday. But as of right now, no small correct advisories today, and most likely even tomorrow. Today, those winds will be from the southwest at about 5 knots, waves from the northwest at 3 feet at 6 seconds, and from the northwest at 5 feet at about 10 seconds. So here's your Trinity County neighborhood forecast along the Highway 299 corridor, upper 80s to about 90, south of Highway 299 in the 70s and 80s. Blue Lake about 67, 74 in Honeydew, and 77 degrees for Garberville. Look for a high of 81 for Orleans, 84 degrees in Willow Creek, and looks like Smith River about 67 degrees. For Siskiyou County, you've got temperatures mainly in the upper 80s to low 90s, cooler for places like Mount Shasta at 86 as well as McLeod. 88 for Dunsmuir. There's that chance for showers by Monday and Tuesday. Tuesday being the better chance at this point. Tule Lake 89 today, 84 in Canby. We could see a stray sprinkle, maybe even a light shower, especially east of Highway 299 here in eastern Modoc County here, but otherwise pretty dry here for today. Dry and sunny and warm for the eastern mountains, 76 degrees for Mineral, 83 in Paradise, and 89 degrees in Susanville. There's your valley neighborhood forecast to the south. Looks like we should be somewhere in the low 90s for Los Molinos southward, past Skenta, about 90, as well as Biggs and Gridley, and of course that much warmer weather by Friday. 105 for Chico on Friday. Again, I'm going to be adjusting these temperatures over the next day or so. I have a feeling I may even want to adjust that temperature lower for Saturday. We'll see. But temperatures really plummeting by early next week in the low to mid 80s at that point. Now, again, instead of that 97 we saw yesterday in Redding, it's going to be more like 92 for today. So a drop in the temperatures, especially for the north end of the valley today. 91 degrees for Bella Vista, 87 for Lakehead and Whiskeytown. And there's your 7-day forecast for Redding. We're back up to the mid 90s by tomorrow. Triple digits well into it by the time we get into Friday, Saturday. Temperature is 95, another 10-degree drop on Monday, another 5-degree drop on Tuesday with a high of 80. That's your morning update. I'll be back again at noon. Have yourselves a great morning.
This May, get active with the Shasta Bike Month and Challenge. For both beginner and experienced cyclists, you can ride anywhere, anytime during the month of May. Whether it's to work, the store, or a leisurely spin on a trail, every ride counts. Join the challenge and log your rides with the Love to Ride platform. Compete as a team of coworkers, friends, or family. Every bike ride you take earns you chances to win local prizes. Sign up today at ShastaBikeChallenge.org.